pleased to have Dr. James Fergusson with us. He is a professor of political studies at the University of Manitoba. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I guess my first question is, I'd love to know what as you study China, as you do, what are your governing assumptions about the Chinese Communist Party's intentions and strategies? Like, I'm talking like 30,000 foot level. You know, what's sort of their governing strategy, if you will?
Well, that's a very important, but of course, a very difficult question. On one hand, there's no doubt that China is a challenger to the existing international order. That's what everyone talks about, and certainly is the focus in Washington, to a lesser degree within the European Union and NATO, and even to a lesser degree in Canada. I wouldn't consider them to be an adversary per se yet, but they're sort of on the cusp of it. When you look from China's perspective and what the President Xi and the party has been saying, they have two big goals. One is shortly the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the Chinese Communist Party. The second is in 2049, the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the People's Republic of China. Their objective is to establish China as the dominant economic power, and by default, then the political power in the international system. If you step back a bit, though, I think what we're really looking at is from a long perspective of Chinese foreign policy, from Mao to the present. The Chinese see themselves partially in global great power or superpower terms, but also in terms that Asia, from, if you like, from Afghanistan to the Asia-Pacific region, is their sphere of influence. And they should be the dominant respected power. And the rules of the game, as they evolve, should be driven by Beijing, not by Washington or anyone else. So that's sort of the objective. I think we have to be very careful in differentiating between a global objective,
right,
and what I think in reality is a regional one.
Right, but their regional objectives do have a global impact, obviously.
Yes, they do, particularly when you take into account their multifaceted One Belt, One Road initiative, the land road through the old Silk Road to gain better access to the European market, what's known as the String of Pearls, the Maritime Road from the South China Sea through into the Persian Gulf. And now the Chinese are also talking about the Arctic Road. Mm-hmm. That is, of course, with global warming, et cetera, there. So, of course, the regional ambitions have global implications. But I think we need to differentiate or be very careful about the global versus the regional. Because if you think in global terms, you're going to think more in different ways than you think this is just a regional aspiration by the part of the Chinese.
Gotcha. Well, I mentioned the release of Meng Wanzhou and the two Michaels. What have you been saying about that? What are the lessons learned there?
Well, the lessons learned, and I think it's reflective of Chinese diplomacy and their behavior over the past roughly half decade, if not more, is the Chinese are the view that they are a dominant power, that they have to be recognized, they need to be treated as such, and they're willing to use whatever instruments they have to ensure that their will is imposed on everyone else. I can't say I'm very much in agreement with the actions of the Canadian government on this at all. But now that it's over, the key question is, what now will Canada do?
Right.
And that's a key issue for us.
Sorry, you're not in agreement with how Canada handled it? How so?
Well, basically, instead of standing up to the Chinese with rigorous policy decisions regarding Chinese investment in Canada, regarding the issue of Huawei, we sort of basically were passive about it. We left it in the hands of the United States to deal with the Chinese. And as it turned out, it was the United States who dealt with the Chinese for us. And I could sort of understand partially the Trudeau government's perspective on this. Huawei, keeping that option open was sort of a carrot to the Chinese government.